you could pursue careers in public policy which requires a lot of support in terms of data, in terms of research, and in terms of execution. Because who does the public policy? Whoever the government does the public policy, the parliament does the public policy, the parliamentarians do the public policy. Have you heard of fellowships with parliamentarians? Do you know that MBA students from the best of the universities world over are helping our parliamentarians to understand the policies better, to prepare them better, to do better research? Are you aware of this? Do you know that there are fellowships which are there in India? I am talking to you about India specific. Do you know that? Have you heard of foundations like Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, Clinton Foundation? And these are the foundations which support different government work. So different government work in health, different government works in education. So you have different programs happening. So each of the programs you would have different policies. So to help the parliamentarians in policy work, you have fellowships. Now you guys will be coming out with specializations in finance or marketing or systems. What are your specializations? Yeah, finance, HR, marketing. So after 2 years, you would be a specialized finance person with knowledge about general management, with knowledge about economics, with knowledge about HR. So you are essentially general management specialists. And you would know better how to manage. You would know better how to do research work. You would know better how to support different policy moves. So public policy, when it is formed or when people think that a policy, can you give me an example of a public policy in your life so far? Anyone? Any example of public policy? Any policy that has affected your life? No one? No policy? Any public policy which has affected your life? How many of you have used Ola or Uber? Many. What is surge pricing or peak pricing? Have you paid peak pricing? Have you paid rates at peak hours or peak pricing rates? Yeah. That's also a policy. Now Uber is talking to government, or government is rather talking to Uber saying that you should not have peak price. Where Uber says that Uber is not a taxi company, it's not a transportation company, it's a IT enabled service which connects you to different operators, to different taxi owners. So they don't have a transportation company. So Uber is not a transportation company. So they have these issues. Have you heard of Ola also in Kerala? They are saying that Ola should not have drivers by not paying them PF and gratuity. So drivers are employees of Ola, or they should be treated like employees of Ola. But Ola is saying that since we are a IT enabled or a technology enabled solution provider, we are not taxi company, we don't own cars. So these are the kind of work that you do with public policy. So these are the issues that you take up in public policy, where any policy that the parliament takes or the government takes is going to affect all your lives. Am I audible? Is it clear so far? So, as I told you, what are some of the attributes? It has to be public. Any policy that affects people, that affects you and I, is a public policy. And this has to be more or less in India, this always is initiated by the government, and policy is interpreted and implemented by public and private actors. So it's not that government will have a public policy and we are not affected by it. We are also affected by it. right? And now another part where you are going to play a major role is the data. How do you justify that a particular policy has to be done, has to be undertaken? When you give up data, say for example, in Gurgaon, you say that all the malls should close down or all the pubs should close down by a particular time. Now that's a policy which affects everyone's life. In the weekends also we'll say that no, the police says that you have to have this policy. Right? How many of you have heard of Free Basics, Facebook? Free Basics? Anyone? In the last 1 month, Facebook had a major policy drive in India called Free Basics. Anybody aware of that? They wanted to give free internet connectivity to people who can't afford or to people who don't have connectivity. So they were saying that we should have 100% connectivity through Free Basics. It did not happen. Why? Tomorrow you are going to work in Google or Free Basics and you are going to face this. How do you deal with this? And why it didn't happen? It didn't happen because the government of India, the parliament and the civil society thought that this is going to hamper net neutrality. How many of you have heard about net neutrality? Yes. So this is going to hamper net neutrality. And that's why they thought that we should not have Free Basics in India. Now these are some of the policy issues which are directly going to affect you and your careers. So today I am here to talk to you about public policy, why it is important for you and what you should do to have a career in public policy, because that's an area which is emerging, which is growing. Right? Now you know CSR. Now CSR has been made compulsory. How many of you have heard about this? CSR in India is mandatory, is compulsory. Now that's again a policy. With that policy, what it means is, now you qualified, educated people going after doing 2 years of MBA course here have specific areas of specialization, and CSR means that you have to help the companies plan better and partner with the government in different programs. CSR doesn't mean that the company alone will do something in its own area. CSR means the company will put in resources and try to help partner with the government so that if you put in X, the impact has to be 10x or 15x. That's how it goes. Now to enable that, they need good managers. CSR or the government work needs good managers, and that's where you can look forward to your involvement, because you people are qualified MBAs, you people are qualified general managers. So you need to look at these areas, because going forward, jobs only in marketing or jobs only in finance or jobs only in a particular area, HR, is going to be more specialized, more technical. So you have to find alternative ways and different innovative ways of making yourself important or relevant for the economy. Am I clear? So to do that, you have to understand how important is public policy, and you should do some reading on public policy to elaborate more and to understand this more. Now, CNG in all taxis. There's this High Court thing, and the government wanted all the taxis to be having CNG by a particular date, 1st of March. Now all Ola, Uber and everyone, they now started talking to the government and said that it's not going to be possible because, one, we are not a taxi company, so we can't ensure that all our vehicles would be CNG enabled. Two, if at all you want us to have only those taxis which are CNG enabled into our fleet, then we need some time to have them. So these are the issues which are directly affecting our lives. My point that I'm trying to make again and again is that public policy is something which no one can escape from. And if done properly, it is going to make our lives much, much more easy. So to have that in place, I urge all of you to please read more on public policy and look at this as a career, because this is where you are directly going to affect lives of the people, policies of the government, policies concerning civil society, and working at the policymakers level. It is one thing to work with a corporate, it is another thing to work as an assistant or as a facilitator to public policy making. And that's a very, very exciting area. Now, on the second hour, after about 5 minutes, I'm going to talk to you about an opening where we are looking at about 10 to 15 young professionals to be recruited in Rajasthan. I'll talk to you about that later. But the whole concept is how after your qualification you are going to help either the state government or the central government or the parliamentarians make better policies for you, I, everyone here. That's the whole idea. And in this public policy making process, all that you have learnt in 2 years, because I am myself from a premier management institute of this country, so, and I have also a background of consulting, and so what I realized after about 15-20 years is that unless we involve ourselves in public policy, which means you have to do data sourcing, which means you have to do research, both primary and secondary research, which means you have to do analytics. How many of you are aware of big data? Big data or data analytics? Anyone? Yes, no? Data analytics, have you heard about data analytics, big data? So one is you do research, but what do you do with the research? You get data. What do you do with the data? So you have to have analytics, and with the help of the analytics, you will do public policy. So you are not doing public policy, but you are helping others do public policy with your analysis. So these are the areas which are very important going forward in your career. And I think you have to give more importance to looking at innovative ways of using your skills now, which you have gathered in the last 2 years in this institute. Right? Now coming back to, it's all about public policy. Because unless we have a policy, unless we have a system, we can't stay. And the country like India is so vast, so diverse, it will be very difficult to have a system-driven society. Now, to have a system-driven society which is accountable, which is at the same time progressive, it's not always necessary to have a society which works, but which also goes to a different orbit. You have to earn more, you have to have better careers, you have to have value addition in your careers. And how does that happen? That happens if you try new things. That happens if you are innovative. So public policy is an area which will enable you to explore things new to you. Right? And about this opening that I was talking to you about, this will be an opening for a young professional, and you would be required to work with a state government, which is a neighboring state government in Rajasthan, to enable livelihoods program. So government and our foundation is putting in money, but we need to know how best we can make livelihoods efficient in a particular state with the help of the money being utilized properly. It's government has no dearth of money. Government has all the resources. We need to ensure how we utilize those resources properly. I often use the analogy of a hydraulic. So if you put X pressure on one end, the other end should give you 10x pressure. So if you are spending 100 rupees, if the government is spending 100 rupees, it should give the impact for about 1000 rupees, for about 2000 rupees. That should be the level of impact or the value of impact. And that value of impact will grow if people like you go work with the government, assist the government, and be a kind of a project management unit or an advisor to the government or as a consultant to the government. Give them better systems, draw good metrics, tell them how to monitor, how to compare, how to have baseline data, how to have budgets, how to draw budgets. How do you do that? How to use IT for better monitoring? How do you have an online appraisal system? Sitting in one place, how the boss in the government or a particular system would know about what's happening at the district level or below district level. So these are the things that's required to be done to make the government funding effective. So that's my second part. I wanted to talk to you about this scope, and I also want to explore your interest in applying for such an opening. And about the details of this opening, I would probably circulate that, including the salary. So we would be taking, so this opening is for 1 year. So after 1 year it's renewable, extendable, but depending on the performance. And the placement would be at the district level of Rajasthan. I'll tell you which are districts, and the date to begin this is as soon as possible, probably in a month's time from now, after we select candidates. And we will be requiring about 15 to 20 young professionals. Right? So any more details on this, I'd be happy to circulate that. And in fact, I have Dhingra sir with me, and I'll definitely share all that with him. If you would have any questions, then please ask me about public policy and also about this. For the details, I'll send them. Right? Does that make sense? I'd be happy to take questions on public policy. How much time do I have?